The night was as dark as my thoughts when I first opened my eyes. I had no idea where I was or how I had ended up there. Panic set in as I realized I couldn't remember a single detail of my past. It was as though my entire life had been erased, leaving behind only a gnawing sense of dread. I tried to sit up, but my body felt foreign, heavy, and uncooperative. My limbs didn't obey my commands as they should have. It was as if I were a marionette with strings pulled by an unseen puppeteer. Fear surged through me, making my heart pound like a drum. I looked around, squinting in the dim light. The room was shrouded in shadows, illuminated only by a faint, eerie glow from a solitary window. The moonlight filtered through tattered curtains, casting distorted shapes on the peeling wallpaper. Beneath me, I felt the rough texture of an old, lumpy mattress. My fingers brushed against something sticky on the sheets, and the scent of mildew and decay filled the air. The room reeked of neglect and abandonment. Desperation clawed at my throat as I tried to call out, but the words wouldn't form. I didn't even recognize my own voice. It was deeper, unfamiliar, and strained. It was then that I realized the most horrifying truth of all. I was in someone else's body. Frantic, I turned my head to get a better look at myself, but a rusty, cracked mirror on the opposite wall reflected back a grotesque image. The face that stared back at me was not mine. Hollow eyes, gaunt cheeks, and a twisted smile that sent shivers down my spine. It was the face of a stranger, a malevolent stranger. Tears welled up in my unfamiliar eyes as I struggled to make sense of the nightmare that had become my existence. How had I ended up here, trapped in this decrepit body, in this godforsaken place? I mustered every ounce of strength, and with great effort, I pushed myself off the bed. My legs wobbled beneath me, as if they were learning to walk for the first time. I stumbled towards the door, each step a battle against the foreign sensations coursing through my borrowed form. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow, dimly lit hallway. Shadows danced on the cracked, peeling wallpaper, and the air was thick with a musty odor. The house felt like a mausoleum of forgotten memories, and I was its unwilling inhabitant. As I made my way down the hallway, I noticed that the walls were adorned with faded photographs, family portraits frozen in time. A sense of melancholy washed over me as I gazed upon the faces of people I didn't recognize but felt a strange connection to. The further I ventured, the more unsettling the house became. Cobwebs clung to corners, and the floorboards groaned underfoot as if the very house itself was mourning. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional drip of water from a leaky ceiling. I finally reached the end of the hallway and found myself in a dimly lit living room. The room was adorned with dilapidated furniture covered in dusty sheets. Tattered curtains billowed in the breeze from a cracked window, creating eerie shapes on the walls. In the center of the room stood a decrepit, ornate mirror, its glass cracked and discolored. I approached it cautiously, not wanting to see the face that had haunted me in the bedroom. But curiosity got the better of me, and I gazed into the mirror. What I saw chilled me to the bone. The reflection was the same malevolent face that had greeted me earlier, but now it wore a sinister grin that stretched impossibly wide. It was as if the mirror reveled in my despair, reflecting back a grotesque mockery of my fear. I stumbled back, the room spinning around me. Panic threatened to consume me as I grappled with the horrifying reality of my situation. I had woken up in a stranger's body, trapped in a nightmarish house that seemed to revel in my torment. As I stood there, gasping for breath, a voice echoed in my mind, a voice that was not my own. It whispered with a chilling certainty, "Welcome to your new reality. You are now a part of this house, and it will never let you go." The voice lingered in my mind like a haunting melody, its words sinking deep into my soul. I clutched my head, hoping to silence the ominous whispers, but they only grew louder, more insistent. It was as though the house itself were speaking to me, a malevolent force intent on my torment. With trembling hands, I turned away from the accursed mirror and stumbled out of the living room. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, its walls closing in on me as if trying to keep me prisoner. Each step I took felt like a descent into madness, and I longed for escape from this nightmarish labyrinth. As I continued to explore the house, I discovered rooms that held even more horrors. In one, I found a dusty, long-forgotten nursery with broken toys scattered on the floor. The walls were adorned with faded children's drawings, their innocence twisted into something grotesque. The room seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and I quickly retreated. In another room, I came upon a decaying library, its shelves filled with books whose titles seemed to taunt me with promises of forbidden knowledge. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and decay, and the pages of the books crumbled to dust at my touch. It was as though the very words contained within them had withered and died. The more I explored, the more I became convinced that this house held the memories of its previous occupants, memories that had turned malignant and vengeful. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes followed my every move. My stomach churned with hunger, and I realized with a sinking feeling that I had no recollection of ever eating. I had no idea how long I had been trapped in this nightmarish existence. Desperation gnawed at me, and I resolved to find sustenance, even if it meant facing the horrors that lurked within this accursed house. I returned to the living room, my steps hesitant, and noticed a door I had not seen before. It was hidden in the shadows, its wood warped and rotting. With trembling hands, I pushed it open, revealing a staircase that led down into darkness. It was as though the very depths of the house were calling to me. Descending the stairs, I entered a damp, subterranean chamber. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the flickering light of a single guttering candle revealed a gruesome sight. The room was filled with cages, each holding a skeletal figure in various states of decomposition. It was a macabre prison, a testament to the house's insidious malevolence. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that I was not alone. In the dim light, I saw the figure of a woman huddled in the corner of one of the cages. She was emaciated, her eyes hollow, and her lips cracked and bloodied. Her gaze met mine, and in that moment, I recognized her as the woman whose body I now inhabited. Tears welled in her eyes, and she whispered in a voice barely audible, "Help me, please." I stumbled back, horrified and overwhelmed. The woman in the cage was the original inhabitant of this body, and she had been trapped here, just as I now was. I had become a prisoner of this malevolent house, a pawn in its sinister game. The woman's desperate plea echoed in my mind as I stared at her in disbelief. Her frail form and anguished eyes mirrored the torment I felt within my own newfound existence. I couldn't ignore her plea for help, and a newfound determination to uncover the truth coursed through me. With trembling hands, I approached the cage and tried to find a way to release her. The bars were cold and unforgiving, resisting my every attempt. The woman's frail fingers reached out, their touch sending a shiver down my spine, as if the very essence of her suffering had seeped into my bones. "I don't know how I got here," she whispered, tears streaming down her gaunt cheeks. "This house, it's alive. It feeds on our fear and despair. I've been trapped here for so long, lost in this nightmare." I continued to struggle with the cage, desperately searching for a way to free her. The room itself seemed to conspire against us, its walls closing in as if intent on keeping its prisoners captive. As I fought to break the bars, a disturbing revelation washed over me. The malevolent presence of the house was not limited to the physical confines of its decaying walls. It had permeated our very beings. I could feel it tugging at the edges of my sanity, whispering dark thoughts and urging me to give in to despair. With one final desperate effort, I managed to pry open the cage door. The woman stumbled out, her limbs trembling as she regained her freedom. She clung to me as if I were her lifeline, her fear palpable. "We need to find a way out of here," she said, her voice a trembling whisper. "But we can't do it alone. This house is a prison, and it won't let us go so easily." Together, we made our way back upstairs, the oppressive atmosphere of the house pressing down on us. The malevolent whispers grew louder, urging us to turn back, to accept our fate. But we were determined to escape this nightmare. In one of the rooms, we discovered an old dusty journal. Its pages were filled with the ramblings of past occupants, their words a testament to the house's insidious influence. It spoke of the house's ability to trap souls, to twist and torment them until they were nothing but husks of their former selves. The woman and I read the journal, our hearts heavy with the weight of its revelations. We were not the first to be ensnared by this malevolent entity, and we feared we would not be the last. As we continued to explore the house, we stumbled upon a hidden door that led to an attic filled with ancient, decaying relics. Among them, we found a dusty old photograph album. As we flipped through its pages, we discovered the faces of the house's previous victims. Families, couples, and individuals, all trapped and tormented, their eyes filled with despair. The woman and I realized that our only hope of escaping this living nightmare was to unravel the secrets of the house's past. We needed to understand the source of its malevolence and find a way to break free from its grip. But as we delved deeper into the house's dark history, we couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself was watching us, that its malevolent presence was growing stronger, more desperate to maintain its hold on us. The attic, with its dusty relics and eerie photographs, became our makeshift headquarters as we delved deeper into the mysteries of the house. The woman and I pored over every faded image, every scrap of paper, seeking clues that might lead us to salvation. As we studied the photographs, a chilling pattern emerged. Each family or individual that had lived in the house had eventually fallen victim to its malevolent influence. Their smiles in the early photos gave way to haunted expressions, and their eyes grew darker with each passing year. In one particularly haunting photograph, a family of 4 stood on the grand staircase of the house. The mother, father, and 2 children all wore forced smiles, but their eyes betrayed a profound sadness. Behind them, the walls seemed to close in, and the shadows whispered secrets we could not hear. The woman and I knew we had to uncover the origins of the house's curse. We pored over old newspapers, journals, and letters, slowly piecing together a harrowing history. It seemed the house had been built in the late 19th century by a reclusive and enigmatic architect named Elias Hawthorne. Rumors abounded about his obsession with the occult and his experiments in merging the physical and spiritual worlds. Many believed that the house itself was a malevolent entity, a manifestation of Hawthorne's dark desires. As we read on, we discovered that Hawthorne had vanished under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a trail of unsolved deaths and disappearances associated with the house. It was as though the very foundations of the house were tainted by his malevolence. But there was one document that sent shivers down our spines, a handwritten letter from a woman who had once lived in the house. She described eerie occurrences, whispers in the night, and the feeling of being watched. She pleaded for help and begged whoever found her letter to escape before it was too late. The woman and I realized that we were not alone in our struggle against the house. Others had tried to break free from its grasp, and they had failed. But we were determined to succeed where they had faltered. We continued our exploration, seeking hidden rooms and passages that might hold the key to our escape. In the dark corners of the house, we encountered strange symbols etched into the walls, their meaning eluding us. It was as though the very walls of the house were infused with malevolent energy. As we ventured deeper into the heart of the house, the malevolent presence grew stronger, its whispers more insistent. It was as though the house itself were fighting to keep us within its grasp, to feed on our fear and despair. But the woman and I clung to the hope that we could break the curse, that we could find a way to sever the house's hold on our souls. We knew that the answers lay hidden somewhere within the decaying walls, and we were determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. As the woman and I delved deeper into the heart of the malevolent house, we could feel its grip on our very souls tightening. It was as though the walls themselves were closing in, eager to suffocate our hope and sanity. Our days and nights blended together as we tirelessly searched for answers. The whispers that echoed through the house grew louder and more sinister, taunting us with our own fears and insecurities. One evening, as we explored the basement, We stumbled upon a hidden chamber, sealed with a heavy wooden door. It bore a sinister-looking symbol, unlike anything we had seen before. The symbol seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and as we approached, the very air around it grew cold and oppressive. We exchanged a fearful glance before summoning the courage to push the door open. Inside, we discovered a chamber that defied all reason. The walls were adorned with grotesque murals, depicting nightmarish scenes of torment and suffering. The very air was thick with a malevolent presence, and the ground was covered in a layer of ashes, as though countless souls had been consumed by the darkness. In the center of the chamber stood a sinister altar, upon which rested a tattered, leather-bound tome. Its pages were filled with cryptic symbols and incantations, a testament to the occult practices of Elias Hawthorne. As we studied the tome, we came to a horrifying realization. Hawthorne had indeed merged the physical and spiritual realms within the house, creating a conduit for malevolent entities to enter our world. The house itself had become a vessel for dark forces, and we were its unwilling prisoners. Desperation and fear threatened to consume us, but we knew we couldn't give in to despair. We had to find a way to break the curse, to free ourselves from the clutches of this malevolent entity. With trembling hands, we began to research the rituals and incantations within the tome. We hoped to find a way to reverse the dark magic that bound us to the house. The very act of reading those cursed words sent shivers down our spines, and we could feel the malevolent presence within the house growing more agitated. As we worked tirelessly, we noticed that time within the house seemed to bend and warp. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. We aged, our physical forms withering as the malevolent entity drained our life force. It was as though the house fed on our suffering, growing stronger with each passing day. But we refused to give up. We were determined to confront the darkness that had ensnared us, to break free from the house's malevolent grip. With each incantation we deciphered, we came one step closer to understanding the key to our salvation. As we continued our research, we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that the malevolent entity within the house was growing more desperate, more determined to stop us. But we knew that we had come too far to turn back now. We were ready to confront the darkness head-on, to face the malevolent force that had tormented us for far too long. With each passing day, our physical forms deteriorated further, and the malevolent entity within the house grew stronger. We had deciphered the rituals within the tattered tome, but enacting them would be a perilous endeavor. We knew that confronting the darkness that had ensnared us would be our only chance at breaking free from this living nightmare. The night was heavy with dread as the woman, and I stood before the altar in the sinister chamber. The tome lay open before us, its pages filled with incantations that promised to sever the house's connection to the malevolent forces. We recited the ancient words, our voices trembling, our hearts heavy with fear. As the final incantation left our lips, the very air seemed to tremble, and the malevolent presence within the house erupted in a furious tempest. The walls shook, and the grotesque murals writhed as though alive. Shadows danced menacingly, threatening to engulf us. But we stood firm, our determination unwavering. We called upon every ounce of strength we had left and continued the incantation. As we did, the sinister symbol on the door began to glow with an otherworldly light, pushing back the darkness that had consumed the house. The malevolent entity fought back with all its might, unleashing a barrage of horrors upon us. Ghostly apparitions materialized, their hollow eyes filled with hatred and torment. The very floor beneath us seemed to come alive, attempting to drag us down into the abyss. But we pressed on, our voices steady, our willpower unbroken. With a final surge of energy, we completed the incantation, and the house convulsed in a violent upheaval. The walls screamed, and the shadows recoiled as if in agony. In that moment, we felt a surge of hope. We had succeeded in severing the connection between the house and the malevolent forces that had tormented us. The entity's hold on our souls weakened, and we could feel the oppressive weight that had hung over us for so long begin to lift. As the house continued to tremble, We made our way to the basement, where it all began. The sinister altar crumbled to dust, and the malevolent symbol on the door shattered. The very foundations of the house seemed to groan in pain as the dark magic that bound it unraveled. With a final deafening roar, the malevolent entity was banished from the house, vanquished into the abyss from which it had come. The house itself seemed to sigh with relief, its oppressive presence dissipating. Exhausted and frail, the woman and I made our way out of the now silent house. We had finally broken free from its malevolent grip, but the toll it had taken on us was undeniable. Our physical forms were withered and aged, our spirits scarred by the horrors we had witnessed. As we stood outside, the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, illuminating a world that had seemed so distant and unattainable. We were free, but the memories of our ordeal would forever haunt us. Our lives had been forever changed by our harrowing journey, by the house that had ensnared us in its web of darkness. But we were survivors, determined to reclaim the lives that had been stolen from us. And as we walked away from the malevolent house, hand in hand, we knew that we would carry the scars of our ordeal with us, a reminder of the horrors we had faced and the strength we had found within ourselves to confront the darkness and emerge victorious. In the wake of our escape from the malevolent house, the woman and I struggled to rebuild our lives. The physical toll on our bodies remained, a constant reminder of the horrors we had endured. Our once youthful faces were now etched with the weight of our nightmarish journey. We sought solace in each other's company, finding comfort in the shared understanding of our ordeal. Our bond, forged in the crucible of our shared suffering, grew stronger with each passing day. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, our ability to overcome even the darkest of trials. But we could not forget the house or the malevolent entity that had held us captive. We knew that its legacy lingered, a malevolent presence waiting for new victims to ensnare. We made it our mission to ensure that no one else would fall prey to its dark allure. We embarked on a relentless pursuit of knowledge, seeking to uncover the true origins of the malevolent entity and its connection to the house's enigmatic builder, Elias Hawthorne. Our research led us down a twisted path of occult practices and forbidden rituals, each revelation more chilling than the last. It became clear that Hawthorne had been driven by an insatiable thirst for power and knowledge, a desire that had ultimately led to his own downfall. The malevolent entity that had taken root within the house had been a manifestation of his darkest desires, a force that continued to feed on the suffering of those who dared to enter. Armed with this newfound understanding, we sought to find a way to permanently seal the malevolent entity away, to ensure that it could never torment another soul. It was a dangerous endeavor, one that required us to delve deeper into the occult than we had ever imagined. In a hidden chamber deep beneath the earth, we performed a ritual, using the knowledge we had gathered to bind the malevolent entity to a cursed artifact. The process was fraught with peril, as the entity fought back with a ferocity that nearly overwhelmed us. But we persevered, our determination unwavering. As the ritual reached its climax, we could feel the malevolent entity being drawn into the artifact, its screams of rage echoing in our ears. With a final surge of power, we sealed the artifact, trapping the malevolent entity within for all eternity. The house, once a haven for darkness, now stood as a monument to our triumph over evil. Its malevolent presence had been extinguished, and the curse that had plagued it for generations had been broken. As we stood outside the house one last time, we knew that our battle was finally over. We had confronted the darkness, faced our deepest fears, and emerged victorious. The malevolent entity that had haunted us for so long was now imprisoned, its legacy shattered. We turned away from the house, its decaying walls fading into the distance. Our lives would never be the same, but we had found strength in each other and in the unwavering belief that even in the face of unimaginable horror, the human spirit could triumph over darkness. And so, we walked hand in hand, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that we had stared into the abyss and emerged as survivors, a testament to the indomitable will of those who refuse to be consumed by the shadows.